welcome to GT Time. I'm your host slash moderator, Kyle Bossman, and joining us as always is our uniquely talented and knowledgeable panel, including Brandon Jones.
I'm back.
Daniel Bloodworth. Hey. And Michael Damiani.
Nice. Too bad you ripped off Sony's press conference with that uniquely talented bit.
We did uniquely talented first.
They listened to us.
I missed that. I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
The team who did Resogun, what are they called? Marquee?
Housemarque.
Housemarque. They were introduced as uniquely talented earlier today. To explain to everyone, we're in the midst of a crazy week. It is not only Gamescom week, but it is Game Trailers Moving week. And it is a stressful, condensed week, and that is why you're seeing this episode early. That's why this episode will be only one camera shot.
Game Trailers Com week.
Kyle apparently also thought it was a good idea to not sleep last night.
So Daniel Bloodworth says, Kyle, you have to be in at 4:30 in the morning, which is miserable. That's like, who wants to wake up before 4:30 and get to work by 4:30?
You should still do it, though.
I should have done it. So what
I definitely was in the camp back in the day of just like, well, that would just be 3 hours sleep. Screw it. But you need those 3 hours. It's always the good idea to sleep.
So I'm running on 0 hours of sleep today.
Isn't that great? That burn? Isn't that nice?
I feel like I had a pretty good intro. I feel like I brought the energy.
I really like the moment in Fight Club when he describes being asleep. When he's like, nothing's really near or far. Everything's just kind of on the same plane.
Sure.
He kind of looks out at his office and it's really hazy. Like, that's one of my favorite representations of like what that feeling is like.
Yeah, and I feel like my fingers aren't there. You know what I mean?
But it'll come back to you for 3 hours. All of a sudden, like, 3 hours, you'll feel fantastic. And then you crash again.
But it felt good. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I wanted to do it a little bit. Like, we're saying goodbye to this office, and it's gonna feel weird.
Well, we're moving at the end of the week, and I'm out of town Friday,
Yeah.
and I'm not getting sleep Thursday night. I'm cutting GT Countdown and packing and my whole office, and it's like, okay, well, I won't get sleep that night. I'll sleep on the plane.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But are you gonna miss this office or what?
Yes. There's no time to miss anything.
Yeah.
Charge forward.
These brick walls that we keep getting kicked out of.
I'm not gonna miss these brick walls.
Yeah.
I miss our old logo, but
this fancy studio will be taken away from us. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely moving on up in studio terms, so that'll be nice. Let's talk Gamescom. Today, earlier this morning, we saw press conferences from both Microsoft and Sony at Gamescom, and they both brought it. They both had press conferences.
Yeah, and Microsoft hasn't in the past.
Right.
It's pretty unusual for them, but yeah, they had a pretty decent show.
They went all out. Yeah. Very impressive. Basically, I mean, still like not as grand as E3, I guess, but still a press conference, and I really appreciated the effort from both of them. Let's talk about Microsoft first, because that came first chronologically.
Yeah.
Blood, you seem like you're happy about what they did today.
I mean, I'm happy that they did a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like they showed anything really surprising. Like they had one game announcement, and it was by the Connectimals guys, and it was just Scream Ride. You know, build roller coasters and then like send people through buildings, and you know, the more screams you get, the better you've done.
Sure, let's not move on from that. Actually, let's talk about Scream Ride. That was the one game they announced. It's like Roller Coaster Tycoon, I think, except for with no business aspect. It's like just build rides and then you can destroy things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't honestly know how in depth it goes. I mean, I saw the trailer, but yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't look that great. I don't know.
Just a peculiar game
Yeah.
to debut amongst this, just like, and now we're going to show you a new IP. And when you say we're going to show you a new IP, there's sort of an expectation you're building up, and then to show up like, here's a wacky roller coaster game. It kind of deflates what we expected, I think, a little bit. In terms of having a press conference, if you know what I mean.
There was also a weird Sunset Overdrive trailer where they kind of aped Samuel L. Jackson for their character. Floyd narrating the thing.
So are we going to nitpicks? Are we doing nitpicks first?
I don't know. I mean,
the Sunset Overdrive. Yeah. I like your takeaways, Blood. So, what did you think of that Sunset Overdrive?
I mean, it was kind of funny though. I think they've mentioned this before, but you know, like the soda. The soda is what's created all the monsters. People drinking the soda, and this guy Floyd was apparently the tester in the labs, but they didn't give him enough time to do his job. He's like, I would have caught that. I would have caught that thing going wrong. I would have found that.
Right. And so the way this was introduced is Ted Price, CEO and president of Insomniac, walks out and says, this game shows a lot of our sense of humor. And so you want it to be funny. You know what I mean? He's selling, hey, you're about to watch a funny trailer, and then it's a trailer with 0 laughs, and like it feels, the VO is a little like, I don't know. You said it was a knockoff of Samuel L. Jackson. I think that's like a little mean, but it wasn't good.
Was it supposed to be funny?
It was supposed to be funny and snappy and like clever, and it didn't exude any of that. Do you know what I mean? And so that was weird. I don't think that game showed well because of the VO.
Right. They started off with Assassin's Creed Unity trailer, which I think is probably a good trailer in itself. It was weird because it didn't feel like it built to anything. It was like they showed the trailer and then they came out on stage and just started, almost as if they weren't even acknowledging the trailer that much.
Yeah.
There wasn't any kind of extra gameplay demonstration for the game or
it was
anything
honestly,
like that.
it was showing a guy doing really long jumps. But the piano was great.
Yeah. I thought it was cool. Like especially points where you see those crowds. It's just like that's a lot of people.
By the way, for the people who are just listening, Bloodworth has 6 pages of notes, but I really appreciate this.
7. There's one little page hiding underneath there. Unless this page is relevant, I'm assuming, right?
I actually stole somebody's notebook. They were just sitting there at the desk, and I'm taking that. So.
What happened to your notebook?
I was in my bag still, but this was already sitting there. So
okay,
I just grabbed it.
So that's your notebook now.
I like that Unity trailer because it was different from the other ones. Like they've done a lot of like popular music and edgy, fun, actiony stuff, and love open world games. So I like the trailer that was the open world trailer. I would consider that, just kind of like setting up the scenes and showing here are these little pockets of this world. All of it's living and breathing, and all this is happening even if you're there or not. And some really cool wide shots. There's a really great shot of him like ascending down through Notre Dame, like about to take out his victim, and you can only, you don't really notice him right away in this wide shot. So it's kind of neat to like get really far away for something like Infamous or something. It'd be smart to get like pull the camera back really far and see the guy running through, just to show like look how big the city is, look how many people there are. Yeah, some of those shots are unbelievable. It's just like thousands and thousands of NPCs roaming around.
Brandon, I always appreciate your trailer perspective.
Well, that's one trailer. I missed them this morning actually, but I saw that.
You weren't up at 5 a.m. this morning watching
I was not. I was sleeping. Yeah, I got it. Because I'm going to lose sleep this weekend and next week, so I'm trying to catch up while I can. But I hate coming into this and not knowing about trailers. Game announcements, that's fine. Little news tidbits I can take.
Well, let's actually
people describing videos I haven't seen.
Before we talk about little trailers, we should talk about the huge news that happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
The huge news, to me, the one thing that made me go, whoa! Like, I was in a room alone, and I still did that.
Someone's gonna hate you for that.
I backed up from the mic.
Okay.
I'm training. I'm microphone training. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider,
Yep.
has been announced as an Xbox exclusive title for fall of 2015. Or winter 2015. Holiday 2015.
It's one of those Final Fantasy things where it just used to think of.
Yeah.
I mean, Lara was born on the PC. I mean, she belongs on PC more than anything. But like, definitely is a franchise we associate with PlayStation more. Weird to see something. I mean, it seems like one of those things where it was just like an AOE sales pitch where like I'm sure they went to everybody and they were like, we want everything exclusive on Xbox.
Sorry, what's AOE sales pitch?
Meaning, an area of effect. So like you don't just like it's not like a targeted thing.
Wide
Like I'll just take them all. Just like a big EMP blast of like please be exclusive, and like that's the one that bought.
Square Enix said, okay, yeah.
That's when they're like, okay, this one franchise we're willing to do an experiment here. It doesn't. There's nothing about the culture or the technology or any of the tools that Xbox is using that somehow connects or pertains to Tomb Raider. It's just like, all right, seriously, it's dartboard. Just pick a franchise, could be anything.
And it was funny. They kind of like tried to say we've had a relationship with Xbox for a while. They were like, yeah, they let us debut on E3 2011. It's just like, oh, like you guys are buddies because of that.
Well, even Sunset Overdrive, which since its inception has said we couldn't do this without the Xbox One, and like I'm still not entirely sure what that means.
Yeah, right, exactly that.
It seems like you could really do anything on either console. Like again, unless you're using something like Project Morpheus or Kinect or something that is exclusive technology-wise.
And I think they're things that you like basically have to say. I think that like if you did get a huge check from Microsoft, you can't say, well, we got a huge amount of money for being exclusive for the winter season, the holiday season of 2015.
We got enough money for Square Enix to keep off our back this time.
Yeah, exactly.
We can actually finish our game without worrying how long it's going to take to sell enough to please them.
Right. You have to say, oh yeah, we're very excited about what Microsoft brings to the table. This is going to make us the best game we can possibly make. You have to say that, I guess. Damiani, you haven't spoken yet. What's your feeling on this?
I mean, I don't care how much money Microsoft gave Square Enix. This is a really, for the future of Tomb Raider, this is really bad.
Okay, go on. What do you mean? By
But Temple of Osiris.
That's something different. But yeah, Temple of Osiris. I actually got an email like immediately after like all that announcements happened. I got an email like Temple of Osiris, go pre-order it like right now. Like so they're trying to
It's
push
still
that.
coming to all
It's
consoles.
still coming
Yeah,
to everything.
yeah.
I was like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
really? No, there's just gonna be a lot of backlash. I mean, it's knee jerk right now. I don't know how much it'll like taper off and even out, but the reactions right now is a lot of people who don't have an Xbox One, those who, yes, technically it was PC franchise it was born on, but a lot of people do associate it with PlayStation. People bought a PlayStation 4, like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to get like Tomb Raider. This new Tomb Raider is going to be on PS4. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm not getting this. The only thing that won't be like a nail in the coffin for this is if this is just a timed exclusive and not
Right.
like a forever exclusive, which this is no way this is a forever
No way.
exclusive.
Yeah.
This is a time. Even the wording, they're just like their official statement is coming exclusively to Xbox One holiday 2015, and that's it. They're
Yeah.
not like saying they won't clarify beyond that.
yeah.
It's just the initial reaction is it's bad for it, and the sales for that like that they were Square Enix was complaining about the sales of the
Right.
first Tomb Raider.
Right,
So what?
yeah.
I mean, people have been saying this. What do you go and do? You go and put it on the system that, in the end, might end up winning. Who knows? But right now, it is not the leading platform. Why would you do this? Like, why wouldn't you lead with the stronger platform and be like, oh, we'll come to Xbox One later? So Microsoft must have thrown a lot of money at them.
It had to be a
And
huge,
lot of money to like
huge
cover
paycheck.
that. But if for whatever crazy reason this isn't just a timed exclusive, no one's gonna like Tomb Raider's gonna die off, and they're gonna have to try again. They're gonna like start over with all the goodwill they made with the last one. They're gonna burn all.
I mean,
that.
Yeah, it's like Empire Strikes Back being exclusive to a couple theaters. Just like, what are you doing? This is the thing. Everyone's gonna be on board for this.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the 7th installment in this really long running series. You're like, oh, weird that the franchise is going in that direction. It's like, it took such an effort to like convince people like, no, we're actually doing something different and exciting and compelling. And we can build a franchise off of this first new game with the this reinvention of Lara, and then it's like, oh no, all of you 3 million people don't get to play it.
Yeah, shoot, it feels rotten, right? It feels like if you are a fan,
It's not good news.
Yeah.
It's not something you can announce that it's exciting. It's just like it's like your parents grounding you or something. It's like, no, you don't get it. It's
Yeah.
not like you guys do. You just can't sell it that way. It's just bad. It's bad news.
yeah, and I guess it feels good if you own an Xbox One. It's like, oh, I'm special. I get that Tomb Raider game, and no one else does. I get that it does. It makes you feel special. It's rewarding to the people who already invested in that console. But,
I guess it just doesn't feel like it makes sense when, like for an established franchise.
right.
Well, especially an established franchise in which the previous game is on the PS4 and the PC.
Yeah.
And to clarify, did we see anything new today from Tomb Raider?
No.
That was a massive mistake.
Yeah.
To not like show a new thing and then ease the pain after the announcement with being like, and we're pleased to announce, showed off at the Xbox press conference with this awesome new
Yep.
gameplay finally, or some new CG thing or something. It's like, whet our appetites. And then like, oh, it's exclusive. Oh, what a weird announcement thing they just made.
No, they basically said, and you're going to see environments like this one from the still of our CG trailer.
No.
Yeah, that is basically what they said with it. Yeah, you're right. They should have shown the game.
Not the way to do it, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a weird parallel here that I think is an interesting contrast. Is Bayonetta 2 exclusive to Wii U? Because Bayonetta was not on any Nintendo consoles. Had no business on any Nintendo consoles. The difference here is Bayonetta 2 was probably not going to be made if Nintendo didn't write that game a big check.
Yeah, it has nowhere near the name recognition of something like Tomb Raider.
Right. Tomb Raider easily was going to be made. And so it seems like less like they're being aided, and it seems like something is being revoked, like something is being taken away from this company that wants its owners to feel special. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the sentiment behind it. And that's like a hard thing to get over. It's a hard thing to like cross your arms and proudly say, this is exclusive,
Yeah.
and grin as you take it away.
Guardians
from
of the
everyone else.
Galaxy 2 coming first to Roku. You're like, no. And Roku users are like, woo!
Yeah, exactly.
We win.
And even then, like Roku users, like honestly, I'd rather see it in the theater.
Nope, Roku first.
Like, come on, Roku, don't do that. Let us watch it in the theater. Man.
I mean, I really only care about exclusivity right now because I own both consoles. I think multiplayer games, like at least it's a single player thing, so it's like I'm not. So like if you own both consoles, it's like, okay, I'll just get it for that. And then if I want to if they have multiplayer or anything later, like then I'll play with my PS4 friends. But if it's something where like, oh man, all my friends aren't going to play that because it's a multiplayer game and they all own Xbox Ones. But other than that, like, I don't really. Again, I think it's bad news. But for me personally, it's like, well, I guess I'm playing on an Xbox then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure in their design documents they're planning on a huge multiplayer mode like the first game had.
I hope not, but maybe.
Well, that was very huge.
But speaking of that actually kind of segues. I mean, they did a lot of, kind of catering to the esports crowd with both Evolve and Halo, but by bringing out the commentators and stuff.
Yeah.
The Evolve one was a little weird because like they made it sound like, oh, we're already in a match and we're gonna bring these guys out and they're gonna commentate on the match, and it's like that was timed too well. Like those Evolve matches can take a little while.
Blood, those were shoutcasters.
Yeah.
Those weren't commentators, they were shoutcasters.
Okay. Explain the difference.
I don't know the difference.
Did they have a lower third that said shoutcasters?
Yeah, exactly. And they were introduced as shoutcasters. And it was clearly like a pre-recorded match that they were out there live on stage. Like
That sounds like a really desperate EverQuest class.
shoutcaster.
Isn't that what they were in the Dune movie with Patrick Stewart? Wasn't Patrick Stewart a shoutcaster? Isn't that what he did? Tangent, sorry.
Get a
Yeah.
tongue to cast a spell.
I didn't
Dude,
feel
yeah,
like
Obi-Wan can do that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the Evolve thing was that significant though. I mean, it was like, oh, it's here. It's like you can mix and match hunters and monsters, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, was the Kraken a new monster? Have they shown the Kraken
They've
before?
showed the Kraken at E3, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was just really, the configuration of the teams, but you weren't in the match long enough to really appreciate that anyways. And then I guess Halo was kind of cool because they did take the time to show both single player and multiplayer of the Master Chief Collection, and sort of teased the Halo 5 beta, but it was still like weird stuff.
Weird stuff. You saw character models and gun models and map models, but nobody in a game doing games.
Yeah. But I mean the Halo 2 remake stuff looks really nice.
So before we move on, I do want to talk about the point you brought up about like trying to go after esports.
Yeah.
So I mean, and also Smite is going to be on the Xbox
Yeah,
One.
Smite. They announced a lot of
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, exactly.
indie games.
I might try that out.
That I
Yeah,
didn't expect, like Goat Simulator as well, and the Team 17. They're the guys that did Meat Boy, right?
No, that's Team Meat did Meat Boy.
Team Meat. Okay, what did Team 17 do? Anyways, but they're doing this game called The Escapists. That's kind of funny title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're trying to break out of a prison or something like that.
But you're moving on again. I want to talk about esports.
Oh, you want to talk about esports?
Why do
Okay.
you think? Yeah.
It's got a lot of pages to get through,
I
man. I
know,
don't think
it's
we're even
got
halfway through
7
page 2
pages.
here.
I do want to like. Do you think that's a feasible market to go after? If so, I think it's smart
It's actually
to
kind of
try.
big at Gamescom on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if that's the biggest PC market, why not try to at least court it, right? Like, why not? Like,
It's not
try to-
getting smaller. It's just esports
Yeah.
are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's just a question of like when to make that play.
And you don't see Sony making any effort at it, actually.
Any?
Yeah,
Really?
right. You know, like you don't see Sony trying to do any sort of esportish games or selling their system that way.
Right. I mean, the closest was they talked about the Crucible stuff in Destiny, but not really. Like they didn't present it as an esport angled thing. They were just talking about that multiplayer.
Right, like leveling up and getting armor and things like that. Right, this is kind of like the Destiny style as opposed to like a MOBA. You know what I mean? Like where it's just like we're all even. You know, we're playing Smite. I got a controller. I'm playing this on my Xbox. And then I don't know if it can work. Honestly, it's hard to. I think esports work. I think StarCraft became huge because it's a PC game. You know what I mean? I don't think that its platform was irrelevant. And it scares me that Xbox would try to chase it, but I understand why they should try.
Well, I mean, I think Halo's already kind of pretty high in that world, so they're trying to, actually feed into that and play off of that. And
Halo's high in the esports world?
Yeah, I mean, I know a guy that used to be professional on Halo, so it's just it's not as big as maybe Counter-Strike or something, but it's out there.
What happened to that person?
What happened to that person?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. It's just not something he does anymore.
Well, like what changed?
You'd have to ask him now.
You didn't ask him? He's just like, nah, man, I don't do that anymore. And you're just like, okay.
There was clearly some like Rocky 2 story you were looking for
yeah,
that
exactly.
didn't happen.
I really
Sorry,
wanted
Kyle.
it. Oh, I was digging, and it just came up with nothing.
Well, it all started 6 years ago.
Damiani, do you think it's a good idea to go after esports?
I mean, I thought it made sense. I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but it made sense to do it at Gamescom, just because the first time I went was the first Gamescom, and seeing how much of that stuff was on the floor, and like how big of a market there is for that in Europe. And I mean, it's becoming more global.
I mean, that's
but-
where they premiered Dota 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
There's a
nobody had
history
seen
there,
the
yeah.
game, and they had it on the floor with people competing, like top players, Dota players from around the world. Yeah,
Yeah, here we went.
for
Like,
like 3 or 4 days straight.
man, Blizzard like hardly does anything outside of BlizzCon anymore. But like that year at Gamescom, like StarCraft 2 was huge there. Like all like the booths set up for it, and everyone got to like play multiplayer there. It was like, yeah. I mean, I think it was more just trying to pander to that market over there. But in terms of like the larger scale, I think they're just looking at what's the biggest stuff like right now in terms of online activity. And you look at what those games are, and they're probably like, yeah, we need to get in on that because like right now it's PC dominated. But what if we were the one to get that on console? What if we were to get the first console esports game that blows up and it's on like Xbox One? I think I don't know if they fully grasp what it takes to do that. I mean, it's a little like nebulous sometimes. Like it's either you're the first out of the gate to do it, or you're the first to do it the best, essentially. Like
Right.
and
League of Legends versus Dota,
yeah,
basically.
when Blood was mentioning like Halo, I mean, it was a different time then. Like if like we were flash forward like everything to like today, and like Halo was just coming out now, and we didn't have all the League of Legends, and we didn't have the Dota 2s. Like Halo would be like blow up. It would be like
Well, Halo is coming out
Yeah.
now because they have the
Well,
Master Chief collection.
yeah,
and it's all
but-
coming out. But you can play every single map, and they got the playlists and stuff. Like I wonder if they're gonna make a big push. Like
Yeah.
here is all of the Halo multiplayer content we have ever created, all on one thing.
Honestly, I think that's
Go,
too much.
you know?
I don't think that'll work. I don't think it'll take off with the competitive scene.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Do you know what I mean?
They
I
were just
think it's
very
like-
excited about that.
I
When I
think
met
it's
with
too
them
many
at Comic
variables.
Con, they were talking a lot about
Yeah.
like, all of it's in there. You know,
And Counter Strike
jump
was
to it.
huge for its time. It's still very popular, but like if Twitch and stuff was around back then, like that would have been like insane. That would have like what WoW became probably like that would have been like Counter Strike if like on like Twitch streaming and like esports was where it was when Counter Strike was popular. Totally different timeline right there. Different reality where Counter Strike is like the leader of everything. And
What
like,
is it like? Just sorry for our listeners. What is your hand motion you're doing?
Oh, the hand motion. I thought you meant
Yeah.
the sound effect.
Yeah. No, they heard the sound effect.
Yeah. Also,
One more
the
time
hand
couldn't hurt.
motion. I just did the sound effect twice. I'm not doing it a third time. Anyway, yeah, we're going around in circles here, saying the same thing over and over. But yeah, that's why one of these consoles they want, or I should say, Microsoft and Sony, and more so Microsoft, are trying to figure out how do we get that next big title that appeals to the esports community and can become the next Dota, can become the next Dota 2, can become the next League of Legends, or whatever.
I don't think Sony is attempting that at all, though.
I don't. That's why I kind of said more so Microsoft because
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like Sony is too active about it. But if someone were to approach them like, "Hey, we got this new idea," they'd be like, "Yeah, sure. Like, we'll put you up at next E3. We'll get you big on stage."
You know what stood out to me was when they were talking about Forza Horizon 2.
Mm-hmm.
They sold it as the most social racing game of all time.
Because driving in a car by yourself is extremely social.
Oh, no,
well,
there's,
it's
there's,
like-
a, there's a lot to
I'm
it, but yeah.
There's a ton to it, but like, how about the fastest racing game of all time, or
No.
like the most accurate race, the most fun racing game? No, it's the most social racing game of all time.
Come on, Kyle. It's buzzwords.
That's a buzzword.
Fun's too generic.
That's
You
kind
can't
of
say
weird that
fun
this year,
anymore.
like, yeah, all three of those games.
Drive Club 2, yeah,
Drive Club
exactly.
and the Crew, they're all trying to be super social, and who knows if that will actually inspire anybody.
But you don't even have to be on anymore for you to be social with your friends. You're playing with like the
That's right.
ghost drive-avatars of them.
Yeah.
So you're hanging out with your friends even when they're not online. Hey,
Well, yeah,
buddy, good
yeah.
to see you. You know.
Yeah, that's the
Hello.
funny thing they
Let's
talked
go for
about.
a race.
Like with Drive Club, they told me, like, oh, you can, you can do anything you can do in the game except actually drive the car. It's like, okay. From your app, it's like,
Oh yeah, that line was pretty funny.
I mean, I guess that's a point. That's the point of our consoles is to drive the car. Should we move to Sony? Blood, or do you have
I'm
any?
trying to think. I mean, we talked a little bit about the indies, but yeah, just a very different kind of feel from one to the next. Sony Sony announced so many games. There's a couple of games on here. Hopefully you remember. I forgot what these games are. Already.
Okay, so what are your notes? Let me see if
Like,
I can give a
The
title
two
to
I'm,
that.
I'm forgetting are
Okay.
Volume and Hollow Point.
Okay, so Volume was the one, that's the stealth one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
From Bissell is his last name? The guy who made Thomas Was Alone?
Okay. Yeah.
Bithell. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
it's-
Mike Bithell. Right.
Okay, is it Bithell?
Mhm.
So Bissell is stupid. Remember,
Bissell's a vacuum cleaner. I think.
0 hours of sleep. Yeah. He said, I played Metal Gear Solid 2. This is a game I wanted to make since then. It's like a
Yeah.
stealth game. It looks pretty cool. And also, it's like narrated by like good voice actors, and so it feels a little bit like Thomas Was Alone in that sense of just there's more going on here than what we see visually, which is
Right.
cool.
Um,
And then Hollow Point, that is, oh yeah, that was weird. That was like Shadow Complex, where it's like a 2D, but there's 4 players playing co-op. So imagine playing Shadow Complex with 3 other people, and you can shoot into the foreground and background.
okay.
Yeah, so lots of.
Yeah. So it's like my mind is over.
Sony announced so many games in
Yeah.
in their press conference that some of them washed off of you, basically.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, though, before their press conference even started, they had so much stuff that it's like, oh, you guys are sitting there waiting. Let's give you 4 brand new trailers for some of our hottest games.
We think about what we were
Yeah.
saying from E3.
Yeah.
They made that announcement. What was that crazy number that they threw out of all their games that are in development? And it's like, this is clearly the place to be if you want games, because we have
yeah.
hundreds. It was like 180, wasn't it? Like 180 games in development
I
that are
don't know
coming
what that
out in the
number
next
was, yeah.
couple of years. or
Those
something.
numbers I never retain because they're so stupid.
Yeah.
But they seem stupid.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like such a huge number, and you're like, there's no way that there's all that you haven't announced yet. And then like,
Yeah.
kapow, at some of
Here's
those
Gamescom.
Gamescom, they come out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
so
all these
like they
weird
showed
titles.
new trailers, like gameplay for Infamous First Light. They showed a new Order 1886 with some more gorgeous environments. I really hope they like get the gameplay to match up to what the visuals look like. Little Big Planet 3 they showed again, and then they finally officially showed Bloodborne, even though everyone's seen it.
Yep. And this was all before the press conference began.
Yeah.
Was a crazy thing.
And then they had this dumb montage, which was like really good until they started sticking people's faces like extreme close-ups right on the camera.
Yeah, it was like Wii stuff where it's just like we have to show the gamer experiencing this game, and so they would show gameplay and then like a model like laughing at the game.
It was the most social press conference intro
Yeah,
of all time.
Yes, exactly, Brandon. The same thing, same dumb thing.
And the weird bookend to that, like, is at the end, like, Sony usually ends with the similar type of montage. This time they just kind of said goodbye, and everyone got up and started walking home.
Which I actually liked. I thought it was classy. Just have a great show,
There was
everybody.
no
Just-
big thing at the end. There was no
Mm-hmm.
montage. It was just that's it. Okay. But yeah, lots of cool, crazy stuff announced. Q Games came out with this thing called the Tomorrow Children. And these are the guys that made Pixel Junk, and they've made all these like little simple looking things that somebody might try to be derogatory and call them like a flash game or something, right? You had Pixel Junk Eden and Monsters and all of those, and
Shooter.
Shooter was really cool. But this is they're like, we're going back to our roots, because we started like I started making 3D games back in the day in the 80s. And so you have a more 3D game, but like it looks like everything's made like carved out of wood. And you have these little people that are like mining like the bodies of giants, and there's like all of these weird different settings. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's not even like really a background.
Yeah.
It's very stark.
Uncomfortable, epic Russian music the entire time. Very strange. Like it was
Distinctive.
exactly
Stands
distinctive is a
out.
great word.
I
Yeah.
actually remember there was a lot of. It was kind of fun to hear. I imagine it'd be much more informative and fun to actually watch all of the things that you're describing. But I enjoyed getting the commentary outside of my office from Mr. Bloodworth, who's like watching the stream and logging everything down. And that definitely like kind of drew me away from what I was doing, hearing this like huge Russian chorus chanting. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I bet that game stands out. I bet that's a little unusual.
And actually, Sony themselves, I think multiple times throughout this press conference, said we're gonna show you some weirdo games. We're gonna show you some games that you're not used to typically seeing in press conferences, and that's what we want to bring to you. It was a lot of unconventional games.
Yeah. And then the next one they showed right after that, they did this weird thing to where like they didn't even give you a break. Like,
Yeah.
Like they would end a trailer and then they would be black for like a second, and then here's another trailer for some other game you haven't heard of. And the next one was the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and it was like this
Remember
weird,
that?
Yes.
spooky. Have you guys seen that before?
They had a trailer that we didn't like at all.
I got a
It was
grudge. I
silly.
gave that
So this-
trailer a bad score.
But this one, this guy was good. This was a really
was a good trailer, you're
creepy,
right.
bizarre, Cthulian nightmare going on there that I'm down with.
yeah,
and they had another really weird horror, the PT.
Yes.
interactive thing available now.
And then people can go download that right now, and they called it a teaser, the world's first interactive teaser.
Which is not true.
Well, on the PlayStation Store right now, when they were going to download it, it says it's a game. It doesn't say doesn't label as trailer. It says like game free. Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, it's because you can actually play it.
But
That's the
I
game.
love this format. I love announcing something at a press conference. It's available right now. Go get it. I
Yeah.
love like okay, before anybody comes out on stage and butchers something in a foreign language or just is really uncomfortable and sweaty and like nervous and like flubs a line or something like that, just like fade to black trailer, go. Like that's how I want to find out about stuff. Talk about it afterward.
It was paced very well.
So I do like those transitions, Blood, where they just like jump right into it as opposed to like, hey, like you were saying with the comedy things, like you're about to see something funny. It's like, don't try to sell it up, sell it too much before you show it.
You're right, yeah.
Because you don't want to give people the wrong impression. Like just jump in.
Lessons from Brandon this week. This is a valuable.
Well, I'm a broken record with that with press conferences. I feel really strongly. Surprise, that like trailers should always lead the conversation when
but
you announce something.
This is like our first like post press conference GT time. Really, this is our first time to really be able to do this and just be like, hey, this is what you didn't do great. This is what you did great.
Directly after a press conference. Yeah. This is the
Directly.
closest.
Yeah,
this is
we-
the shortest amount of
Yeah.
time from press conference to GT time
Exactly.
that we've had. So it's all fresh.
Hellblade. Somebody was making fun of the title for like being too much like Heavenly Sword, but I think there may be some actual real connection there.
Little
or
winky
something.
connection, maybe.
Yeah. But the whole time I was like, is this Heavenly Sword? Is this Heavenly Sword? And and then it came up as Hellblade. The character looked a lot like Naruto, but like maybe like a little bit of like if Naruto wandered into the enslaved world and put on some more makeup or something.
And we should mention it's from Ninja Theory.
Yeah.
Starts. The first thing you see is an independent game. And you're like, this looks too good to be an independent game. And then they say from the makers of DMC and Heavenly Sword, Enslaved.
Yeah, it was a little weird because when they said that independent game, then like this like sliced through the words.
Yeah.
And so I thought they were almost like it's like, oh no, it's not. But then they did that with like all of their text.
Yeah, including the title, I think.
So I don't know exactly what they were trying to get at with that.
Yeah, but cool. That was a new announcement of a game from Ninja Theory that they're making themselves. No publisher on that. No Capcom or Sony to say, hey, that's not right. Who did Enslaved? Who published Enslaved? I
Oh,
it
Namco.
was,
Bandai
yeah,
Namco,
Bandai Namco, yeah. No Bandai Namco breathing down your neck. Damiani, what stood out to you from the Sony press conference?
So I mean, I was catching up on watching it when I got into the office, so I was actually listening to it on the way in.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was a little weird hearing like trailer music, but not being able to see stuff. I don't recommend that. It's kind of weird. But there's put in perspective trailer music selections, like a whole different thing when you're not like seeing the video. Rhyme.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, Rhyme.
The more I see of Rhyme, the more I get to troll you now, Kyle, because that's how I know it was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, but like this is how the Wind Waker should have looked 10 years ago, especially the water. The water in that game is so good. You can see into the water. Sorry, that bugged me about the Wind Waker.
'Cause it was always solid
you
blue?
could not see through the
Right.
ocean.
Sure, that's
anyway,
fair.
That aside, I just wanted to troll you for a second. That game looks really awesome.
It really does.
And actually seeing a lot of it in action and seeing some of like what they're alluding to with the gameplay mechanics, I was like, all right, this is cool. This is for all of you who still hope for The Last Guardian. You stop hoping.
You can have
and
this instead.
Now you can start getting excited for Rhyme. Like this,
Yeah.
this is like to help you get over. This is the rebound.
Because the developers, Tequila Works, I think is their name.
Yeah.
They've not done anything to this scale before. And so when we had that first trailer, I was like, oh my goodness. And then you Google Tequila Works and you're like, uh-oh. And a trailer like this, like undoes an uh-oh. It kind of like relieves that, like, this might be, man. You know, it takes away some fear. And yeah, it was a great trailer. There's one shot in the rain where there's just a
Yeah.
bunch of people in cloaks. And you're like, what is this game about?
Or when the kid's riding those weird two-legged like ball-shaped things
Yeah.
across like the water.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, what are these? And he's just like riding it like, what's up?
Just insane imagery.
Yeah.
Insane imagery and a really, really cool, again, just unconventional game to show during a press conference.
Yeah.
But a great, it shows how you can have a great showing just visually at a press conference, especially if you're going to be involved in like montages and stuff. It's like you want to get your quirky, weird stuff out there. So visually, when you're piecing together all this stuff after the fact, like what really did I like? Like that game stood out for you primarily visually. Like you didn't learn anything distinct
Yeah.
about the story. There weren't any cool announcements about exclusivity or pre-order bonuses. or
Actually,
like,
I
Well,
just
we
realized
had some
what
of
we
those.
forgot. I realized what we forgot from Microsoft. One of their biggest things was Quantum Break. They
Sure.
finally showed the gameplay in Quantum Break.
Yes, that
Uh,
was Sam Lake promised that we would be. He didn't promise, but he said that we would be speechless after this.
Yeah.
Woodworth,
and
were you speechless?
I was not speechless. Actually, Huber kind of the hype master. He kind of made me think about it a different way because he's like, it's bullet time 2.0, and it's like, oh, it totally is. It's like those guys did the bullet time in Max Payne, and now
Yep.
it's like they're taking that mechanic and furthering it with all of this extra lore and stuff. The first part of it, like the cover shooting, I wasn't really that into. It's like, oh, well, you can stop time and run up and like slap a guy in the face and like, ha ha ha. That's kind of how I felt. Like there's something about that felt less serious and more like, oh, you can't do anything. I'm gonna hit you.
It came off as comedic to you. That is really funny. Yeah, like another power is just like you can shoot a bunch of bullets and then make them all hit a guy at once. And which, I mean, yeah, you know, it's just like, it's a lot of like stopping and going. Basically, it's a lot of like just slowing down time and then I do my cool thing and like, gotcha, like, ha 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 again. Until you find enemies that you can't slow down time on. And then it's just like, oh, now what
Well,
are you
what
gonna
was
do?
weird was like, because they described the stutters, right? Like you're apparently one of the few people or whatever that can go into a stutter and like,
Time freezes.
yeah, all of time freezes.
Really cool
or at
effect.
least sort of slows down because you could like hear people's like speech in slow motion as you walk by them.
I interpreted that as their thoughts. Their resonating thoughts as they're frozen in time.
that's a stretch.
Okay.
But when he was actually fighting like the other guys that had technology to be in the stutter as well,
Yeah.
like he was still able to like use his powers on them. So I'm not sure exactly how the lore or whatever works out in that, or if it's just cool
It's
mechanics.
probably, yeah, it's probably not worth figuring out, like the science behind stopping time and like running up and slapping a guy in the face before he can see you.
But yeah, I guess I'm still like it's interesting, but I'm still unconvinced as like how much I'm going to care about that game.
What do you need? What's going to take to convince you?
I don't know. I mean, I just
A really good story. I mean, you know,
Exactly.
it's that's a huge push of that thing.
Right.
Something that they talk about over drama. Drama is gonna be a very dramatic game.
He brought up the
It's got
TV
the
show,
show,
again.
you know.
Yeah, he brought it up again.
yeah, I'm
You're gonna want to see
very
all sides of
curious
this story. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we need to know what the story is.
as to
Yep.
how that's all gonna work together, because it doesn't feel like, I mean, it's realistic to a degree, but it doesn't feel like it's realistic enough to where you could like jump between those two things without noticing. But their games have always sort of had that strange juxtaposition, anyways.
Oh, right. Like in
Like
like
the-
live action
Like
stuff.
the stand-up of Alan Wake, you know, like you walk into the store and like there's your character, but he's like a photograph, you know. Yeah.
I don't think the TV show is within the game. I think it's a whole separate thing.
Is it not? Yeah, I know they're supposed to work together somehow, but I don't know how.
Yeah, and I feel like that game is still very far away, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like further than Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Forgive me.
But back to Sony, cardboard boxes, Mike.
Oh yeah.
Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima.
I really
It's
liked their setup
I
for
know,
this.
The last time I was here, it was 5 years ago at the first Gamescom.
You have huge expectations
They're
at this
like,
point.
oh man, this
You're,
is
oh
good.
my
Like,
gosh, this
we
trailer.
got a live stream tomorrow, but
Yeah.
we're gonna get a new trailer now, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna see the gameplay for this. Like, are they gonna finally mention like some names that we've been wanting to hear, like Volgan?
Right,
But
it's happening.
cardboard box. So I thought, like, as soon as it starts. So again, remember, I'm in the car listening to this, so I didn't actually see it.
Yeah.
So I hear it, I'm like, wait, this is the E3 demo. Why are we? Oh man, are they just showing this to the like European audience? But didn't they release this already? Like, I'm like, wait, there's gonna be a troll somewhere.
The whole thing was a
I
troll.
was like, here we go, Kojima. When does it change over? They're like, all right, so today we're gonna show you the new box uses for this, and I was like, here we go. And then they showed how the box could be like a saluting soldier, so that people just like walk by it and like, whoa, like, okay, it's
Right. So you paint your box
Yeah,
like a
you-
soldier,
yeah,
and you stand
well-
up, and the guards are like, oh, that's just another guy.
yeah, like, yeah, you put an image on the box. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'd call it painting, but
Sure.
yeah. And then like they did like in typical Metal Gear fashion, they had like pretty much almost naked woman, you know.
She had a bikini.
Yeah,
Bikinis are allowed.
I know, but
Okay.
I mean, it's just Kojima has a history of like doing all those images and stuff. Like remember Vengeance? It was funny when he went up to a poster and you're supposed to slice it, and it was just the girl in the bikini. I was like, this is Metal Gear. He's been doing this since like Metal Gear 2. Knocking on the posters and the alerts. So you can do that to distract the guards, which they've had like the porn magazines
Right.
before.
They
like,
run to you.
Yeah,
If
they
you
ran
show
to
up
it.
as the bikini
And,
lady, they
wasn't
run over
they
to you.
did like
Yeah.
the bed of roses or whatever, but it's really still
It's another
woman.
bikini lady.
And then they
Yep.
showed like the PlayStation box, putting it on his
Oh,
head.
on his head, yeah.
Yeah, so they were like, hey, we're having fun with boxes. So it ended up being entertaining while also showing off how you're going to be able to do new things with the trademark box in Metal Gear. So it was surprisingly effective, but I don't think it was necessarily what everyone was hoping for, but it was still enjoyable.
I think it's a good idea strategically because it's very different from what we saw last year at E3.
Last year? Or-
Not this year's E3.
Okay.
When it was official, that we had that
Oh.
really long Phantom Pain trailer.
Yeah.
Looked very serious and didn't have a joke at the end. Most Metal Gear Solid trailers have like a joke after like the title. This one was like serious all the way through, and so it kind of felt like a way different. Even Ground Zeroes, there's very little levity in Ground Zeroes, and so it's cool to see this kind of thing where it's just like, hey, we still got a little goofy side.
Yeah, it was interesting how they did that. And even at like this year's E3 trailer, it was like men descending into madness and the
Yeah.
whole wiping the
Ashes on his face, right,
which
yep.
has now become the all over my face like meme gif that everyone uses.
Yeah.
But then the E3 the actual demo they showed there was like one of the first things to do early on is like use the Fulton recovery system to send a goat into. I was like,
Yeah, it's
all
perfect.
right, we're
back
back
in
we're back
business.
to Metal Gear.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
They're not completely abandoning the quirky comedic stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Kojima, for bringing that into a press conference. Not the right place. Shouldn't have done it, but I'm really happy he did.
Yeah. Oh, and that happened right after that really serious, well, started to be serious, but the Shadow of Mordor trailer, where like you see like his family getting tortured or killed or whatever, but then all of a sudden like Sauron like puts down the mace and this mountain explodes, and it's like, okay, you just went over the edge on that one.
But
I
I think it's
imagine-
interesting
yeah.
what you find humorous.
No, you said the Metal Gear humorous thing came after the Shadow not humorous thing.
No,
So
he
it's a
was like Sauron destroying a mountain is funny. Is that funny to
It was
you?
funny because it was out of place. I'm speaking for Blood. I probably shouldn't. Sorry.
But yeah. It
What?
was-
Settle
it
this.
was-
Is Sauron destroying a mountain funny to you?
Yes. It was.
The imagery implied that Sauron smashing down a mace destroyed like.
You should be
Mount
terrified.
Doom.
Mount Doom.
But yeah,
All right.
yeah, it was just as weird. Yeah,
It was over the top, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
It went a little bit too far. It was just like, bang, and then a mountain explodes, and it was just two different things cut together. But the implication was just really funny to me.
I think Sauron destroyed that mountain. I don't think that was two things cut together conveniently.
Yeah, he accidentally broke it and then had to rebuild it in time for Frodo.
Oh, so he had to build Mount Doom,
Yeah,
is what
he
you're
had to
saying?
rebuild Mount Doom.
Sauron built Mount Doom. That is canon.
Yeah.
You have to read the second Hobbit book to find that. Brandon, I'm sorry, I interjected. I think we're talking about Sony's levity. You had something
Right.
to comment on that?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I'm sure if you're putting a press conference together, I'm sure you leave a time slot for Shadow of Mordor, and then you're like, oh, it's so great, we're gonna have Kojima, we'll put him in here.
Sure.
And then like 2 weeks leading into the press conference, you finally get that Shadow trailer, and you're like, oh God.
And the
well,
and then you get the
totally,
box
that's not
trailer,
gonna
too.
work. Yeah, but there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
You just create a time slot for these people, and like the tone of what they want to bring to it is really up to them. I imagine in most cases.
One very serious game that I'd like to talk about actually is Until Dawn. I think that.
Very serious?
Yeah.
Just like a teen slasher thing.
Okay, you're right. Scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna have, but it's gonna be kind of like the, not quite Scream, but like what is it? I can't think of the name, but yeah, it's just like one of those the ones that go up to like 6 or whatever, like,
Yeah, I mean,
the ones that
Bloodworth-
come out every year.
Bloodworth is going to be laughing the whole time, but to me, it looks like a very scary game. That's like a legit horror game. Here's the premise: you have 8 characters. All of them could die by the end of the game, and all of them can survive. And like they're like teenagers in a cabin in the woods, basically. You know what I mean? It's that stupid premise. Are you disappointed by that?
So again, I only heard this at first. And when I heard one of the first character's voice, and like they could all die or they could all live. And as soon as I heard the first guy started to talk, I was like, "You're dying."
No, he doesn't have to die. You can, if you're good enough
No,
at the game.
I meant like I was like, I don't
Oh,
care.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
I
I
meant
see.
I don't care. Like I wanted. I was
You're
like,
gonna kill
if
him
you
off.
die, I don't care. Don't care.
But they're giving you the freedom to do that.
Yeah,
if
exactly,
you-
yeah.
If you're waiting for that to happen,
I do
then
think
it'll
it's
happen.
that's
Yeah.
interesting that nobody's I don't feel like anyone's really taken advantage of that kind of take before. I mean, obviously, like I said, like those movies are hugely popular. People go and get the cheap thrills, but most of the like horror games are like solitary, lonely experiences.
You're a guy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
You don't have like a bunch of teenagers running around being stupid. You know?
Right, you're just like a serious man. Where's my wife? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's funny to just see a bunch of teenagers get murdered. We'll be laughing it up with blood work.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Cool. I think basically Sony accidentally leaked its like list of games that'll have demoed on the floor, and so we actually knew this was coming until dawn.
I totally forgot about the game though. Like,
Yeah, me too.
like, people
Absolutely.
were saying that title, I'm like, what is that? I don't know what it is. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh, this game. I forgot this game existed.
It might be cool. It really might be interesting. A game, also like, that's just like a game where we can't point. Oh, it's like this game. Like that. Until Dawn is like its own weird, dumb thing. Which
Yeah,
is,
it
which
seems
is
they almost
interesting.
have, you know, with the interactive elements, it almost has like a little bit of Heavy Rain in there. And, but yeah, just definitely more coming from the film inspiration, I think, than any other games.
So besides from the games themselves, two big news stories mentioned. Firstly, Sony made the point to make it very clear that there are 10 million PS4s sold to people who took it out of the box and are playing it right now. Not shipped. They're like, those aren't shipped. Those are 10 million sold. 10 million PlayStation 4s have been sold in 9 months. We talk a lot about sales, but the number 10 million is significant because at the beginning of the last generation, what we call the 7th generation, as Damiani rolls his eyes, I just do it to get you. I just do it. I just want the eye roll. That's all I want. What'd you say?
I feel like we like say 7th and 8th gen like every other day.
What do you mean?
Because we're in
Oh,
games journalism, that's why.
Yeah.
There's something this week. Maybe I'm just
So
like
we're
having-
obligated to.
having weird dreams about it. Then maybe.
Just where I walk into your dreams and be
No,
like,
you're
hey,
not-
Damiani,
you're not
you
in
wanna
them.
Seventh gen.
It's more like
Seventh
people
gen.
just constantly refer to those terms, and I'm just like, no, it's current and last gen. What is wrong with you people?
You gotta embrace that 7
It's
and
like
8.
the zombie apocalypse, but people just saying like 8th and 7th gen. I'm like,
I've been trying to drop it to
Stop.
7G, you know, just to.
7G sounds good because
all right,
honestly,
I
it's
want
not-
you
it's
in a
not taking
fluent
hold.
conversation, intelligent discussion. Not only to use 8th and 7th, I want you to correctly refer
Oh
to
my.
1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation.
Yep.
Referring to everything.
Sure.
Next time we have a top 10 discussion and we're doing like multiple generations, you have to use that
can I be honest?
terminology.
The first 4, I have no idea. You know what I mean? It's all just different Ataris. I have no idea like what the first 4 are. You know, but I mean that's just an easy. It's just so clear. It couldn't be clearer. 7th and 8th, like this current gen,
You just
last
said
gen
that
is.
it's not there.
No, 7 and 8 are clear. 1 through 4 is just like, what is that?
I think the only thing that's not clear is somebody saying current gen, because then they don't know which one you're talking about.
Right? Yeah.
It's only weird for that first year.
But
Then it
honestly,
becomes fine.
I think that the like adoption of the PlayStation 4 is going to move along. I think we can say current gen sooner than ever. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, I
Yeah.
think that then 10 million is crazy. At the beginning of the 7th gen, Xbox was notorious for saying we got to get to 10 million because the first to 10 million wins, baby. PS4 is there within 9 months. Did the PS4 win, baby? That's my question to the panel.
No, I mean, whatever. Where were they getting that number from? Like,
Right, exactly.
Were
It
they
was-
backing up? I know the quote.
It was historical.
up.
It was like if you look back at all the other console generations, straight back to number 1. If you get to the one who gets to 10 million first is the ultimate victor.
Well, I mean, things change eventually. You know, combo breakers. You know, that's not how it's always going to be.
Right.
So to quote Back to the Future, history's going to change.
I think honestly,
Wii U, son.
yeah, I think
Wii U.
Wii U did not get to 10 mil yet. Oh, you say Wii U still
Wii U
can?
will be the combo breaker.
I think the Wii is a weird outlier from the last generation because I did it. I did it for you. I said last generation. From the 7th generation.
Yeah, because when you say 7 and 8, you sound like, you know, review scores, and 7 and 8
That's
are the
the
only scores that
scores.
ever exist.
Absolutely right.
So I mean,
Unless
you're
it's
just-
Last
you're
of
just
Us, yeah,
playing
exactly.
into the trend of those two numbers.
So yeah, Wii was a weird outlier, and I think that the Wii might get overcome by the 360 soon or something. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but it's a weird thing where it's just like, oh, that might actually Wii plummeted in its later years, and what?
I mean, they're right though, 'cause PCs reach 10 million first before everything. They're still dominating
Are they dominating in software sales?
everything. There are more PCs out there than there are game consoles.
That's true. Great point.
Might not have a great attach rate for software, video game
Yeah,
software
yeah,
sales,
so
but
the attach rate's pretty
overall
bad.
software,
Yeah.
and like in services,
Minesweeper attach rate is like a 100%.
Netflix,
pretty good.
Netflix subscriptions.
So anyway, the other big news story, not even huge news story, is that OS 2.0 basically is coming
Yeah,
for,
that
for the
SharePlay
PlayStation
thing
4.
that everyone thought they forgot about is actually happening.
Yeah, so when the PlayStation 4 was first like announced during its first meeting, that was like one of the features.
Yeah.
You can have your friend play on your TV. You can watch your friend play your game for you in front of you. I thought that was the dumbest thing. Who would want that? But
Yeah.
apparently,
Well,
a
I
lot of
also
people
thought it
want
was
that.
like some pie in the sky. He's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You know.
But they're promising now you can. We can have that ability. And not only that, if it's like if it's a same screen co-op or competitive game, say Street Fighter, you can play with each other. Your friend doesn't need to own that game. Your friend can just stream off of your console to your friend's TV.
And isn't that like? Didn't they have a more tangible example? Was for Far Cry 4, the keys to Karat. or
That's a
whatever.
little different.
Is
That's,
it a little
that's-
different? Because
right.
That's like
is that
you
the
you have a
same,
key.
like,
That's like having the like
two-
when they have the games on Steam where they give you an extra key. Only with keys to Karat, you get like 10 keys, and then you can give a key to somebody and then play with you for like 2 hours.
But it said like you don't need to have the game or even download it. Is what his wording was when he finished it up. So it's like, wait, you don't even have to download it.
The
so
2
then-
hours is the issue there. That's
Yeah,
like
like,
that's
how
you're
do
giving
you-
your friend a demo basically.
Yeah, so I didn't know if it was gonna structurally work like that, but it seems a little too soon because it sounds like PlayStation shares.
yeah,
a little ways
shares
off,
a little
yeah.
different, I think.
But it's kind of conceptually same thing. Like, hey, come play my game because I suck at it. So come beat it for me. I just want to see if it can be like as easy to troll like when everyone was doing Xbox. Like people, what was the guy who was clever and named his like Xbox Live his gamer tag handle like Xbox or whatever, Xbox One. So when people told him like were shouting at them, in
Oh, it was like
multiplayer,
Xbox
so it
close.
turn off the
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's like a similar way for like to get access to other people's systems. Like they're in the middle of the game, and you just can like figure out a way to get a hold.
And just run off the edge.
Just take
the entire time.
take away their controls and grief them and stuff. You're like, no, don't do that.
I'm sure you can only do it to friends, but you can still troll friends. You can be like, "Oh, sorry, man, my cat got on the controller."
Yeah, you could play
Yeah.
on a whole bunch of things like that.
Yeah. What I do like about it is it's the most social feature ever. But like you can talk to your buddy while you're playing a game, which I think is okay. I can understand that appeal of just you're both watching a game together and you're playing it, and oh, let me take this guy. We can swap every level. It's like you're on the same couch together. I get it, but I'm not clamoring for it.
Yeah.
Mario Party needs this.
Mario
that'd
Party
be cool.
needs this. Absolutely.
Pass the controller to virtually, so you can play your 4-player Mario Party from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's kind of what it goes back to, right? It's just like DS download play, right? You want to play multiplayer with somebody, they don't have to have the game. You just, do that quick little transfer, and then you can play together.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see why it's scary to publishers and manufacturers, console manufacturers, because it's like that is less sales. There's fewer sales. But I don't know. I think
But if it's the way that, like if you go back to the couch example, I mean, that's what we've been doing all along.
yeah, but we don't do that anymore. We all play online now. We play at our own homes.
Or we just don't.
Apparently, kids Skype now. We learned that on GT Time.
I'm glad you figured that out.
So, Blood, are there any more games you want to point out that you were like, wow, that's very cool? I got a short list of before we go.
Definitely seeing Tearaway on the PS4.
Yeah.
Tearaway Unfolded, and I thought it was really cool, like what they said, because I thought that it was crazy that anyone would try to port that game, and they're like, well, we tried to port Tearaway, and then we realized we couldn't. But it's probably the best use of this freaking light bar ever. Even though it's not really using the light bar, but like you use it to like shine a light into the game.
Yeah.
And make things grow and light through tunnels and all of that kind of thing, and yeah, just like really like focusing in on the unique interface they have, the same way that they did with the Vita. And I still haven't gotten to like really play Tearaway because I don't have a Vita and we don't have any in the offices this time.
So now you too can play Tearaway.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and I've always been looking forward to that game. That game debuted at Gamescom back in the day, I believe.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Shoot, is that 2 years ago at this point?
I think so.
Yeah. Wow. I think I was working for GTTV at that point.
I was at the press conference, but.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so that was really cool. And then the Michelle Ancel game, Wild.
Wild.
Oh my goodness.
This is another game where it's visuals. It's just there's like a giant elf lady inside of a giant tree, and you are just like 5 inches compared to her, and she's just kind of like, she's not intimidating. She's just like looking at you, ready to tell you
But
something.
the thing you're saying is you can play as her. You can play as anything that's alive.
I can be a boar. I can just roam around as a boar, these beautiful lands, and be a boar, and then maybe like somebody can ride on my back.
Yeah. Well, they had that one weird shot. I mean, some of the animation was a little weird, to be honest. Because there's like a one where one person was sitting on the horse and the other person was standing, like holding onto their shoulders. So I'm not sure what that was about.
Yeah.
Did that person just like hop off and hop onto another horse or what?
Anything, dude. Wild's about anything. We wild.
Yeah.
Hunt, live, survive, explore. Go underwater. Underwater, there was like a giant skeleton underwater, and you could just swim up to it with these giant fish. Man, it was cool.
It did give me the sense that there was like maybe some kind of multiplayer aspect to it, and then
Absolutely,
people kind of
yeah.
having like a little, like the skeletons they showed. They weren't scary skeletons. They were kind of like joking around and dancing and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it was mysterious, fun fantasy kind of game. Crazy. A game unlike we've seen. Really interesting. A couple of games I want to point out that I think did a good job at Gamescom. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare had a really good showing, a really good gameplay demo. Usually, like basically what they used to do at E3. Even like in the interest of time. I think they showed really well. It looks good. It had like a high octane, but like showed things that are like, whoa, we can do that in games now. I thought it was pretty cool. There was one game within the montage of the Xbox ID at Xbox that was called Ghost of a Tale.
Oh yeah.
And you're like a mouse, and it looks so good. And someone on Twitter said, "Oh yeah, dude, that's Rat Souls. You got to check it out." It's like,
Rat Souls.
yeah. And so yeah, check out if you can. Google Ghost of a Tale. That game looks really cool.
Oh no, I have heard of this. That wasn't the first time they've showed it, right?
No, it's not.
It's the first time they showed
Yeah.
it for Xbox, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, the Gaff thread called it like Rat Souls.
Really?
Like a while ago. This
Cool.
is now rushing back to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
That game looks legit. Man, I'm into a game where I can play as a rat. Absolutely. Can I be a rat in Wild? I hope
They
so.
might have been in the
Yeah.
montage at E3 too, but I'm not sure.
Man.
They had the same. The funny thing is they had the same song
Yeah.
as the E3 montage.
And then what else did I love big time? I guess that's it. I loved all those games. There were some interesting games shown today. I guess Gamescom is allowed to be a little weirder because it's a little more European. I guess that's just the thing. They kind of acted like that. They're just kind of just like, and here we like to be weirder. And so like, go ahead, be weird. Show us your weird ones.
There was a new Witcher trailer that came out too, but it wasn't. There's no new gameplay in it.
Is it weird?
Not really. It's shot
Pass.
really well actually. They have like developers standing in some pretty cool locations, and
Oh, so it's like a developer diary even?
it's more of like let's actually explain a little bit more of the world and stuff to you if you're a newbie. So
I'm a newbie.
it's good
Okay,
for
so
that.
I should check that out. Brandon Damiani, were there any other things that stood out to you that you wanted to comment on before we go?
No, that I can think of.
I
a
just
lot of
realized
stuff.
I got to do some corrections. We got a little buttload of corrections this week. Okay, so corrections music start. We didn't have Elise's microphone on last week. That's correction number one, or maybe apology. Sorry to Elise. Sorry to listeners who wanted to listen to Elise. We didn't have that microphone on. Lord of the Rings: Shadow of Mordor is coming out this fall. We did this whole list of like huge games that are coming out in the fall. I neglected that game, and I think that might be a huge game. What?
And Little Big Planet 3.
Yeah.
He's neglecting it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna neglect that one again.
I think the thing is, like what we've learned with things like with Games of the Month,
Yeah.
you as hard as you try, you can never get it. There's always
You're always gonna forget
some
one.
game that somebody is looking forward to.
Yeah.
That you don't find when you're trying to put that list together. And sometimes it's a game that you knew was coming out, but for whatever reason, like just trying to dig through and sort through all of those dates, there's not really like. As simple as it feels like that should be, it never is.
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
always gets missed.
You always miss something, but I feel like that was a big miss. Also, there was a moment where Damiani was talking about just like, and then Nintendo would give away all of its DLC for costumes for free. And I said, Damiani, that has never happened in the history of DLC. Apparently it has. apparently a Gears of War game, I think 2 did that. I didn't fact check it because that's impossible for me to fact check. So I'm assuming, yeah, at one point a Gears of War game gave away all of its cosmetic DLC for free. So you got me. I stand corrected. End corrections music. Whew. What a buttload, right? Our bets. We can't cash in on our bet yet because we had this.
I could possibly win this one
You
because I
can
wasn't
still win
there.
this one. Yeah. Elise made a really smart bet for you. Actually, she did research. She like looked up past games and things. She put in a lot of work.
She can be on the show anytime she wants.
So we'll figure out how big the Hyrule Warriors file size is before next week's episode, which will probably be from our new studio.
And again, yes, we need to end with that, of course.
We're moving.
Go ahead, pitch it, Brandon.
Yeah, we're moving, you know.
No.
It's not a big deal.
Bigger.
Just kind of, you know, for the first time in the history of game trailers, we'll have our own exclusive production space. You know, if you're into that. I'm totally picturing, you know what the comments are going to be. People are
No.
going to watch the next episode. We're going to be in a brand new space.
Yep.
It is a GT branded production stage that we are building as we speak. People are building chairs and tables and backdrops and all this stuff. And people are going to hate it. They're going to be like, oh, I missed the bricks. There was just something about the table with the pieces of paper and the your
cords
iPhone set up and
stretched
the
across.
cords crisscrossing everywhere. It just kind of had, I don't know, it just won't be the same GT time without it.
I liked it when sometimes it was a half hour because someone else reserved that room.
I kind of like microphones going dead. It's just some kind of a mystery. You never know who you're gonna hear or not hear. We don't. This room doesn't operate like this most
Yep.
days. This is where people actually have conferences, and we will be in a space where no conferences are held.
Yeah.
It is just used to shoot shows. We're going to do all of our shows next week. Hopefully, if we don't, we will try again the week following to try to get back up to our regular production schedule. And then we have all sorts of new ideas for stuff we can do beyond that. So very, very exciting time for game trailers, but might mean that things are a little rocky for the next couple weeks. But it is all in the interest of doing kick-ass coverage of games.
Ever upward.
Perfect for Gamescom to be the time that we're just like, we're out, bye,
Yeah.
picking up stuff. See you.
Oh man, rough week.
Yeah,
It's been a
I
rough
have
week.
the entire library to back up.
The entire, what did you say, 2,500?
About 2,500 games.
Yeah, we got to pack that up.
And I still have to filter through the stupid old Xboxes, figure out which ones actually work, and not take the rest.
Stupid
of them.
You
Xboxes.
stupid old Xbox. I'll take Bad Boys off your hands if you need any like help. Give me
No,
that.
that I don't need to get rid of. No.
Brandon, why don't you did such a good job? Why don't you close us off?
So these are all of our Twitter handles. You can follow us all on Twitter. You can follow us collectively at the Game Trailers Twitter handle. You can also find us on Facebook and of course on GameTrailers.com if you're finding this on some weirdo app that we have on Xbox or iOS or Android. And like I said, we will be back in some form or fashion next week. So please tune in for the future of Game Trailers. And thank you for watching, guys. See you next time.
I love the Xbox.